You know, that last song, I Can Only Imagine, don't you kind of feel like we're getting a little taste of it right now? I mean, I can't imagine it really being better than this. Oh, it will be. But it's hard to even imagine it being better than this. I told our congregation a couple of weeks ago there was some phenomenal music that John had directed, and of course, it was nothing like what you do. But it was pretty amazing. And I said, y'all, that's just going to be music in heaven. I mean, that's just going to be like when you're walking along the streets, you know, what you hear. I want to talk just a little bit about my friend John Leon Lewis. I've had the incredible pleasure of serving alongside John for about 15 years in ministry. And I remember when we were in the process of interviewing for a new minister of music where I was serving at the time. And I remember I was charged with calling all the references, and I called Kathy Godley, and I know she's here somewhere. Kathy, where are you? Back here. I remember calling Kathy, and we ended up having like a 1-hour conversation. And because she could not stop talking about this man, John Leon Lewis. And I just couldn't believe everything she was saying until I really got to know him. Because when you get to know John, what you realize is that the music is just simply a vehicle. It is simply a vehicle for delivering the grace of God. Yeah. And I don't know anybody that does that any better than John. If you know John at all, you know he's a prayer warrior. I love to sit when John is praying and just be ushered into the presence of God through his prayers. And I heard one of his choir members Susan was just making a comment about that. She said, don't you just love it when John prays? And I said, yeah, it's just incredible. And for John, certainly music, even secular music, is ministry. It's a way to bring joy. As a matter of fact, when I was thinking about what I wanted to say about John, I thought, what scripture stands out in my mind after knowing and loving this man for 15 years? What would I say? And John, for me, it would have to be Nehemiah 8:10. The joy of the Lord is my strength. I don't know anybody that exudes joy more than John Leon Lewis. He does it through music, but he does it just who he is as a man of God. Just being around John is fun, and he makes everything more fun. And then when I started thinking about that, I was thinking, gosh, that's kind of cool, because Nehemiah's job was to build up walls that had been broken down. And I think God's mission in life for John Leon is to tear down walls that have been built up. John can somehow, he can somehow cross barriers that most people could not cross. I was raised in Knoxville, Tennessee, in a home that I would say was pretty racist. I was blessed with a mother who did not feel the way the rest of the family did, and so I heard truth, but I still was pretty surrounded by that. My dad, I would say, was a racist. And he and I had many hard and difficult conversations around that. And my dad was a singer, and late in life, as John and I were working together, he got to know John Leon Lewis. And all of a sudden, literally, all of a sudden, color disappeared. Race disappeared. Ethnicity didn't matter. My dad fell in love with the Jesus and John Leon Lewis, and late in life, my father was able to put that down. He loved to sing with John and for John, and John would often invite him up to Magnify, and he would sing with Magnify. Even though he wasn't singing with Magnify, he just wanted to rehearse. He just wanted to sit under John's direction and leadership. And John, whenever Dad was coming in town, John would always invite him to sing with the choir. John knew exactly what were my Dad's favorite songs. He knew his favorite anthem, The Glory and Majesty. Majesty and Glory, thank you. He knows it better than I do. And whenever Daddy was in town, John would change what the choir was doing so that they did that song for my dad. My dad passed in February, but he was here for the big cantata. At Christmas. That was his last big thing. And just before that, Dad had been in town for another. We try to do a big concert every 3 or 4 months. We hope you'll come back, as a matter of fact, when we do our next one. But We like to do a big concert, and we were having a concert, and Daddy was in town for it. And John knew Daddy was going to be here, so he changed what was going to be sung by the choir. And the minute I heard, I knew what was in the bulletin, but the minute I heard which one comes first, Majesty and Glory, which one? The Majesty and Glory book. Majesty and Glory. The minute I heard the first strains of the Majesty and Glory, I'm like, oh, John, how sweet, you're doing that for Daddy. So I look at John smiling, and I'm looking out in the congregation for my daddy, and I can't find him anywhere. And I keep looking, and then I look up, and there's my daddy, standing right there. The last time he got to sing with the choir was under the leadership of John Leon Lewis. And I know he looks forward to the day that he'll get to do that again. I'm so honored to work with you, John. You are my pastor. I may be yours, but you are mine.